Welcome to Women Who Brand, a podcast that spotlights inspiring women in the creative industry. I'm Alejandra Salazar, founder and CEO of CROING, which is part of the 0.1% of creative agencies founded by a woman, and I'll be your host today. This podcast is part of an initiative of CROING to inspire women in the industry by sharing the journey and insights of those who are leading the way. Women Who Brand are creative, strategic, and visionary forces in the world of marketing. They make an impact in both the role and the industry as a whole, whether through campaigns, storytelling, or experiences. They shape how people perceive, interact with, and remembers a brand. In this episode, we talk with Meridith Rojas, the Chief Marketing Officer at VidaCorp. Meredith is so smart, and I love the way she phrases the concepts she talks about. There's a lot of great information in this podcast around creators, building brand equity with creators, transitioning from being a founder to working in the corporate world, and truly listening to your consumer. My only advice will be to listen to this episode and get as inspired as I did. Now, please join me in welcoming our next woman who brand, Meredith Rojas. Hi, Meredith. How are you, sweetie?
Good. How are you? Thank you for having me.
Of course, for those who don't know her, Meredith is the Chief Marketing Officer at VidaCorp. She managed the North American market, overseeing beauty brands in mass retail, including MCO Beauty and Nude by Nature. Meredith and I met earlier this year at the Cannes Lion Festival, where we had a great conversation and exchanged insights. I remember a line you said that was, borrowing community is the new ad spend. The moment you said that, I'm like, I need her in my podcast. This is perfect. I love it. It's honestly the first time I heard something like that, and it's so spot on that I really wanted to have you here. So I'm pretty grateful that you accepted to joining us. So yes, I think we should get started because this is all about you. So I really want to make sure we have time to talk. So Meredith, tell us about what led you to pursue a career in marketing, and how do you feel with your current role?
Absolutely. So I have always sort of followed my passions, and it didn't start in marketing, but it
Okay.
certainly brought me here, and I couldn't be happier. I mean, the fact that I'm marketing something that I genuinely love, beauty, is a dream come true. How I began was just, I loved entertainment. I loved the idea of creating something that captivated people, that engaged people, that really just something that people wanted to lean into. And so I started in the music business, and I realized there was an opportunity at the time to create a live event around then YouTubers. It was very early in the creator space.
Got it.
I sort of felt like there was this almost like Van Warp Tour opportunity, but for internet talent. So this is the same year that VidCon launched.
Okay.
We started Digitour, which became a touring event where we took YouTubers. Then later we took TikTokers, we took Viners, who RIP Vine, but we would take them to meet their fans. And we did about 1 million tickets. We ended up
Got it.
portion of the business to Viacom, but we led that, me and my partner, for over 8 years. And that,
Wow.
yeah, but baptism by fire. I didn't know how to produce a live event. I figured it out. I didn't know really why the creator economy was something that was going to take over entertainment or become such a huge piece of it. But in the process of starting this business, what I did was I built a brand. And that was the most rewarding part of starting Digitour, was being able to see an opportunity, a white space, and lean into, how can I give these people what they want? How can I build something that's for them? Really, it was like building a community before that became the buzzword that everyone's using. The best part of sort of having those events and growing that business was 100% the marketing and the branding and the architecture of something that really impacted creator culture. And so from there, I just kind of how my career evolved. I met some people from Logitech. I had written a book, and I was going to go around and sort of do a little tour around my book. And at that time, I was introduced to Logitech, and I just met them. There was no job interview, there was no job. But through that introduction, I got to meet some really incredible people. And next thing you know it, I'm building out creator marketing at Logitech internally. So I then took a
Wow.
marketing role where they wanted to become a creator brand, and I had this creator expertise.
Mm-hmm.
I think the superpower that I didn't learn in a traditional way. I don't have a degree in marketing. I didn't get an MBA. It was always always very much, I understood consumers. I understood.
That's key. That's everything. Didn't mean to interrupt you, but I always said that in this podcast, by listening to brand marketers and people like you, I feel I'm doing a PhD. I'm getting more and more experience just by listening. And sometimes you don't need the formal D or the formal career to actually being able to execute amazing your works. Thank you for sharing because it's really inspiring.
I mean, I think fresh eyes are the thing that actually people don't give enough weight to it. I constantly am trying to bring people in around whatever I'm working on who have a fresh perspective. Not to say that, experience isn't essential, it is, but also just fresh eyes. You're building things for consumers when you're a marketer, typically anyway, and the kind of marketing that I do. So being able to understand that response, if you're not making people feel something, then I don't think you're actually marketing very well.
I couldn't agree more. Yeah, I love it.
So there's really something like more of an instinct than, say, a certain certificate or qualification. There's no diploma in passion, right? Like that.
Love it. Man, you shared jewels to me. Every phrase, I'm like, what?
Oh,
Love it. Thank you.
well, I think it's just, you have to figure out like how to make somebody feel something. And if you can do that, then that is the thing that you build communities around. And so that's what I did at Logitech. I took this opportunity to understand. I always want to learn. I'm always like, I'm a perpetual student. No matter how big my title gets or my role or my remit, I always want to kind of keep that. I want to stay grounded in being a student of culture because culture moves so fast. And no matter how bright you are and how good you are at your job, if you're not sort of continuing to learn, you're going to phase out of culture, period.
Yeah, fall behind for sure.
So I was like, okay, I'll work at Logitech. I want to learn how to market inside of an organization. Like I know how to build from scratch. I'm an entrepreneur, I think, through and through. That's really like what I identify with the most, even maybe more than a marketer. And then when I was able to learn how to operate in a large organization, I was like, there's a whole other set of rules and it's a different experience. And that I thought was really good because every time you put yourself in a new environment, it's like you're resetting your brain. You're getting new sort of synapses are forming and firing. And so I had a great time there just doing the most unexpected things. I think that's kind of a theme in my career. Like when I was there, I wasn't technically product marketing. So I wasn't marketing computer peripherals, but I was at a company that sold computer peripherals, mice and cameras and keyboards. And I just were telling people like, oh yeah, me and my team, we built out a music award show in the metaverse in partnership with Roblox. And they're like, how did that sell mice? Like, how did that sell I'm like, not everything when it comes to marketing is about selling. The best marketing is actually building community. It's creating a connection because if you look at the people buying only as customers, only in a transactional capacity, you may have them for a purchase here, a purchase there, but you're not going to have them in a way that's transformative, where you can actually build a community that you can activate, you can introduce things, you can kind of like, it's a way different approach. And I think when I said borrowing community is the new ad spend, what I really was sort of talking about is traditional marketing is about buying ads. It's about buying eyeballs.
Yeah.
New kind of marketing that I think what I kind of champion and what I believe in is instead forming these connections where you have an always on relationship with your people. And not every interaction needs to be a sales pitch. It's actually quite a turnoff if like every time you talk to your
100%.
you're trying to
Yeah, it's a transaction.
Yeah, well, like, it's like, what
It's
do you
boring.
for Gen Z and especially Gen Alpha? If all you're doing is selling, you're going to lose them and you're going to lose them to your competitive set who are actually trying to form a connection and build a channel of content, entertainment, interaction that is based on more than a sale. And so I think for my time at Logitech, I was building equity with the creator community for the brand. And everything I did was like, well, how did that sell? And I'm like, what I was supposed to do, that I was setting out to build a new sort of audience segment, to create a new connection with this creator segment and start to create an association between creators and Logitech. And the first thing you do when you're trying to do that is you have to drive value to that new audience segment. And so we were doing things that drove sort of surprise and delight for creators and for the people who followed them. We also noticed it was really interesting, but so we had Black History Month, they were like, here's some small amount of money, like figure out a program. And so what we did with that was we're like, well, instead of the traditional stuff, let's actually go and find a way to make this money work for, for people of color versus just trying to say, stand up for people of color. Let's actually do something that will make a difference. So there was a choreographer who had choreographed Single Ladies for Beyonce, that's which everyone knows. And he had sort of realized, this is crazy. I'm building this IP that's not considered IP at all. And different movies were using it, different video games were using it. And he was like, this is something I need to stand up and say is not right. This was happening at the same time that the Black TikTok strike was happening in 2021. And so a lot of creators of color on TikTok were like, we're creating these dances to songs or sounds on TikTok that are becoming massive and no one's giving us credit. So we're like, let's take this money for Black History Month and let's actually hire a lawyer and take Jaquel Knight, who was the choreographer who choreographed for Beyonce, take his methodology of choreographing or copywriting dance and pay for these TikTokers of color to have their dances copywritten so they can stand up and they can protect their creative work.
Love it.
Again, I got, how many mice did you sell? And I'm like, I'm not answering that question anymore. It was such a successful campaign. It won a bunch of awards. And I think most importantly, it had a lot of impact on
Love it.
And
So
on
good.
what we stood for, right? Like our value was DE&I. We wanted to be a creator brand. Like when you're building equity for a brand, those are the things that you have to, those are your KPIs. And so we're able to do really outside of the box kind of like program.
Love it. And how do you feel at your current role?
So going from computer peripherals to beauty, my first reaction was like, why didn't I do this from the beginning? Look, I love technology. I love consumer products. I love marketing, period. But I think the difference when you market something you genuinely love, I've been a professional beauty consumer since I was about 10. Like I love beauty. I love, being able to be expressive. I love the way that makeup can empower you. I love all of those elements. And I enjoy playing with it myself and sort of what it can do for other people who use it and wear it. And it can be such a positive tool. So stepping into this role, it was just incredible because I was able to do the whole thing. It wasn't just like special creative projects to build brand equity. I was able to step into this role and say, okay, I'm going to like do the full marketing 360, own the full funnel. I'm going to imagine interesting things with my team that can build a community, but I can also figure out how are we going to sell mascara. It was sort of well-rounded experience. And again, I was able to learn because I was stepping into an industry that I had never been in, like as a marketing professional before. I was able to step into a role that was very entrepreneurial because MCO Beauty is the biggest beauty brand in Australia. The business is Australian. My job, I was hired to come in and help launch it in North America. And so building out a marketing plan for bringing it to Target was just so much fun with a fairly small team and being able to sort of dream up some really cool ways to sort of get people excited and build that community from scratch. I think that entrepreneurial aspect of this role was so much fun for me because going back to when I built the company, the live events company, it's a different energy being at a company that's in high growth mode where everything's a possibility versus being in a company that's a public company. And it's a little more like you have to learn how to navigate. This felt more like, all right, back on the horse. West. We get to kind of break some rules. And that's just so much fun.
Love it. I love the way you express what you're doing. I think you connected so good when you express it. So congrats on that. It's really inspiring, love. So I want to know, in general, in any of your experience or maybe where you are right now, how do you evaluate whether an idea or initiative is the right one to move forward with? Do you have a specific process or is it more of a feeling?
So I think it's both. I think a lot of times creativity starts with a feeling. And I think then you have to run it through a bit of a litmus test. And, you also need buy-in from your colleagues, from your team, from the leadership. So you have to kind of look at it through the lens of how does this feel? Like, do you have that sort of really good hunch that this is going to cut through the noise? Because again, sometimes when you're operating in marketing that moves at the speed of culture, it's very much about seeing something and moving quickly. And so there's not a ton of time to overthink, is this the right move or not? You kind of have to shoot from the hip. And if you're going to do it, you're not going to do it, you're going to learn in the process. But, you also need to kind of understand a few things. Like we have certain barometers and certain like ideas of what we want in general. There's always an outlier, like, oh, this creator doesn't have the typical engagement rate that we tend to want to see, or they don't have the exact audience breakdown that we tend to want to see, or, some of those things. If it's an outlier, we don't automatically say no. But I do think, we have a little room to play and to just take those risks, because sometimes unexpected things are the things that just really explode. And I think one of the most exciting programs that we did since I've been at MCO Beauty is we launched Dupe Day, National Dupe Day. So like, I'm sure you've seen Hamburger Day and Lipstick Day and a lot of random days celebrating very random, maybe objects or things or ideas. But what we were thinking is we don't want to just have a vanity title, like a day on the calendar registered. It's kitschy and fine, but like, again, this comes back to, if you're going to build community, you have to drive value. Everything you do has to drive value back to those people. Otherwise, there's a lot of other communities that they can spend their time on. There's no shortage of places that they can lean into. So for a dupe day, what are we giving them? Well, we dropped the best sale that we've ever done on 4/4, April 4th, National Dupe Day. For a very short window, the day, we had everything $4.44.
Wow.
Went super viral, and we had insane spike in sales. So that sort of, we didn't market the sale, but it became like our own Prime Day. And it was, our community loved it because it was everything they wanted to try. Now they were like, done. I'm going to just.
Of course. Yes.
Let's go. I'm going to have MCO for days. And it was just a big, big hit. So like that was something.
And are you doing it?
But every year we're going to kind of reimagine it just a touch, because I think keeping things fresh and a little unexpected is critical. But yes, that is something that we plan to bring back.
Love it. I will be paying attention. Love it. So today you are in a position where I guess your ideas are heard because you are leading the marketing team, right? But in the past, or still, because I feel this question is both sides, because you can be at the top of the marketing team and still you need your ideas to be heard. So then your team can, react, take and execute or build on your ideas. So how do you make sure that your ideas and your voice are heard?
So I think, to your point, even if you're sort of leading a team, it doesn't necessarily mean that you're
heard.
People if you say, I need you to get this done. But there's a difference between going and checking the box and actually being bought into an idea. And I've discovered is, you want to go fast, go alone, you want to go far, go together. And so taking that extra beat to really, I've always been sort of good at selling externally. Like, we want to get a partner, we want to get this talent, we want to do this. What I've learned in my career is you have to bring that same enthusiasm internally. And so it's not just about managing up, it's managing sideways and down. And everybody around you, you need to give them that same level of enthusiasm and energy that you would give to an external partner that you're trying to get on board. So if you want people to really get into an idea, it's not about just assigning them work to do around that idea. It's about pitching them that idea. Feel ownership in that idea, making it something that you can collaborate and build upon as a team. And then that's the difference, because you're not going to be able to do the big ones on your own. And you're not going to be able to farm parts of the idea and have it really come to life in an incredible way. I'm happy to have any of my ideas be everybody's ideas. So
love it.
I think like having that is critical. And then, in the past when I was less senior, I think it's really just being okay with people ignoring you the first time, the second time, saying no the first time, like there's a lot of that. It's about really mastering your conviction and learning to believe yourself. Because if you don't believe in your idea and you don't feel like it's worth pursuing, no one else is.
100%. I mean, for example, in my company, I had this vision of building this agency that it's different. It's, women owned, which that's different already, which is crazy, but it is what it is. And my team, it's pretty talented. And I always look at them are like, you guys could be working in any agency or brand because you are so talented. And I kind of reflect on my power power to sell my vision, because when we started, it was really, we didn't have any client. I didn't have experience. I started when I was 23 years old. And I've been working with such an amazing people for 8 years, 9 years, 7 years. And at the beginning, we were like this. And I just had this vision and I sell it in a way that, because I really believe it, I am still 100% convinced of what I'm saying, but it was in my head. Like, I have no proof that that will work, you know? I just had conviction. And that conviction, I feel, not only sell them into the idea, but make them help me build that vision. And that's where we have right now as an agency. So I completely agree that the more you learn to the power of convince yourself and convince others, like have the conviction of your ideas, that's the key to then move forward.
Definitely. And some of the best ideas I had, usually I would say the best ideas, most of the people around me didn't get it. So sometimes, not saying this is always a good litmus test, but I do think, in my experience, some of my proudest moments of my career were ones that nobody got until they came to life. And then everyone got it and wanted to say they got it from the start, and they never.
How do you feel or think they work on the idea if they didn't get it? Like, how was it?
Well, I think in that case, the ones that didn't get it. So for example, when I wanted to start a live tour with influencers, I had tons of people around me, not people that were working on it, because it was just me and then my now husband and a few other people. But when I said it, they were like, no one's going to come. Like, people are doing MCNs. Like, that was the time. It was 2011. We're aggregating channels. It was about scale. It wasn't about going to a concert venue to see YouTubers. Like, I was doing the opposite of what everybody else was doing. So therefore, it made no sense. And so I had people being like, this is a terrible idea, not going to work. And then, I think even after the first year, most people would have given up because it was good, but it wasn't like a huge hit. By year 3, we had people trying to buy the company from us because we found our community. We figured out, we fine-tuned. So sometimes just doing, learning, iterating, continuing to do it, continuing to learn, continuing to iterate. It's this grit that I think a lot of people don't have as entrepreneurs. Like, they're just not wired that way and they're uncomfortable with failure. Whereas if you can get really comfortable with things going sideways and being able to say, okay, we could fix that a little bit. Let's move it to the left. We could fix that a little bit. Let's move it back to the center. I think the patience and just that sort of willpower and grit, those are some qualities that I think have contributed to my success, because good things can happen, but I think people give up too quickly.
Yes, it takes time. It takes time sometimes, and you need to try. Yeah, I feel it all starts in the conviction, honestly. Like, if you believe it's possible, you just need to try. And if it doesn't work, you try a different angle, but you move forward. And then maybe you find out it was a different angle or a different idea, but by trying, I think you will never prove something right or wrong if you don't try to do it, So, as a marketing leader, what trending marketing excites you the most right now?
I think live shopping.
Same. That's everything I think about, is that and entertainment. So we are in the same page on that sense. It's really powerful. It's really crazy.
I think that just the behaviors we're seeing around like Whatnot and TikTok Shop, it's transforming how we discover.
So which community do you find the easiest and the hardest to reach today?
I think Gen Z and Gen Z.
Yes, I just record another podcast and she's like, women and women.
Yeah, well, because Gen Z they'll find out about you the quickest, but to reach them, when I hear you say reach them, means kind of like get them. And I think they're the most discerning and fickle. So they might know about you, they might love you, they may think you're not cool, they may think you're really cool, but then they may drop you tomorrow. So like, they're the easiest they'll see you first, but will you reach them and influence them and actually bring them into your community? That's going to take a little more elbow grease. And so I think, everybody's talking about Gen Z, and before you know it, we'll be sort of focused on Gen Alpha. But for now, Gen Z I say you get Gen Z, you get all three, because millennials are not taking advice from each other. And Gen Alpha looks up to Gen Z.
Yeah.
You reach Gen Alpha, then you're not cool to Gen Z. And if you're going for millennials, you're not cool to Gen Z. But somehow
Yeah.
nail Gen Z, you're going to get everyone.
Such a good advice. I love that. Some our audience in this podcast include basically it's all about women who hold high level leadership position, whether it's like director of marketing or CMOs, etc. But some of them, this podcast was their first ever appearance like as a personal professional brand. And it happens because we had a meeting agency client and I heard them and then I go in on LinkedIn or whatever and they are not there. And I'm like, please come to this podcast because the world needs to listen the way you talk. And it happened to me when I heard you there, but you were already speaking. So my question is for those who are listening and haven't dared to start building their personal professional brand, what would you say? And how was your experience? When did you start creating your personal professional brand? I saw you in Cannes speaking, you're here, so that means you are building that. So I want to know how it started and how is it going.
So it started when I was running Digitour as a founder, and I didn't really know much about. So that was in 2011, 12. I discovered it kind of by accident as, the beginning of my story. I kind of told you a lot of what I've ended up doing was discovered just by kind of like following opportunities. But as the CEO and founder of that business, it was just to talk about the business. I had to be the evangelist of the brand. And so opportunities. I just was thrown into the deep end. I had no clue and just I learned by doing it. And then because it was all influencers on the tour and everybody who came to the tour was obsessed with these influencers, we built a brand around the tour itself. Then I started to become associated with that. So then there was like sort of people that would follow me, and then I wrote a book, and so I started to have to post to kind of bring attention to that. I think it's been a long process for me, but I think what I did by accident in being a founder of a startup and what people are doing now is they're seeing employees as content creators, right? So like a lot of EGC, employee generated content, is becoming really popular for brands. And so this was kind of like, granted, I was an employee, but I was the founder. That's what I was doing. I didn't have anyone else to talk about Digitour, so I went out and I got on my Apple box or whatever, and I just started like telling everybody it was the greatest thing ever. And so I think I'm a very passionate person and I only do things I love. And so by extension, it's very easy for me to talk about what I'm doing because I've never taken a job. And I know I'm fortunate for this. I was
about to say that.
I know a lot of people have jobs that they don't love and that there's things they would prefer to do. But I think my advice to anyone is there's something that kind of makes your heart sing. And whether you get paid to do it or you do it after you're done working, that sort of very natural passion that bubbles up, you'll be able to speak on that. And so when you're building your personal brand, in my opinion, it's all about passion and it's all about connecting to that thing that makes you feel that way, where you can kind of like talk about your superpower because you just love it so much. And everybody has this, no matter if, like I said, no matter you get paid for, or if it's something you do when you get home from work. But that's the thing that you can start to talk about. And we're living in a time where LinkedIn is a very powerful tool. I started posting videos, between my last role and this role. I took a very tiny window of time and I just started making videos because it was fun. And I realized I love talking about trends. And so I just started making these videos about trends. People started watching them and people really liked my like it doesn't have to be a massive community, but I think there's going to be a group of people interested in your perspective. If you're speaking from your heart about something you're passionate about, there's going to be people who resonate with that.
Love it.
I think it's important because that's how you can kind of find how to turn your passion into something that is, driving income for you.
Love it. Yeah, such a good advice. And I couldn't agree more. Actually, for me, having this podcast, I always wanted to talk about what I know and also empowering women and celebrate it because I really think that people need examples and I want to see more women taking on high roles in the industry because I feel that's kind of the only way for the industry to be more accessible for everyone. So I was like, I want to be a speaker. I want to talk about the agency and at the same time, I want to empower empower others. And it was hard because my initial thought was, let's do a podcast with other creative agency founders, right? But it was hard because then it's like, well, but I'm building this at the same time, so how can I do it? And then I found this way of doing this, which is my passion, in a way that works for everyone, including my agency, myself, my passion, my guests, and the community at the end of the day, which is really what matters the most. And the only reason that I know I can do this is because I really love it. And I always said that I'm doing like a PhD here by listening to my guests, because you girls are so smart and passionate about what you do that I'm like really investing my time the best way possible. And I know our audience is doing the same. That makes me happy. So thank you for sharing your take on building your personal professional brand, because I think it will be really helpful for our audience.
Of course.
So last question of this section. If you were a brand, what would be your personal slogan and brand colors?
My personal slogan, like, yes.
I love it.
I think I found all of my sort of like success in just, you have to say yes, you have to go for it, you have to be opportunistic and be positive. I think that so many people start from a place of no, and if you can start from a place of yes,
yeah, that changed the whole perspective.
It just expands.
It opens, yes.
I think my colors, I don't know, like the ones behind me.
Love it.
Red, sort of like pink and orange, and just very happy, vibrant colors. I'm a very colorful person. I'm a very happy, energetic person. And I think that would probably express.
Love that. Well, my love, I have a question around what is that thing that you see in VidaCorp or in the brand that you're working specifically that are you looking for, that you think, and asking this because you talk from a place of innovation and discovery and get to really know your audience, and that takes innovation. So I assume that there are ideas here happening that you really want to maybe achieve or think about it. So I want to know what's coming, what do you have in mind, what would you like to see live from the company you're working with? Or it can be also a challenge that you are facing, because sometimes innovation comes from a place of like, this is this challenge that I'm trying to solve somehow. So is there something there that you can share?
I think the thing that excites me the most is just white space. And so something that we've spent some time considering is the insights we get from being close to the community and really just living and breathing in sort of the beauty space, the specific like needs, desires, and wants. Like one of the really exciting, beautiful things that we get to do is we get to hear what people want that they can't afford. And we get to bring them versions of that as we dupe a lot of luxury, right? So we're bringing luxury to everyone, and we firmly believe that everyone deserves great things and that luxury is a mindset, not a price tag. So expanding upon that mission,
exactly,
we have a bunch of different sort of ideas of how we can deliver on that promise. So I think it's just constantly bringing fresh concepts, campaigns, entertainment, innovation, products, newness to the community. So again, without saying too much, that's something that is kind of guiding our growth strategy and mindset. And then, just ear to the ground. Like I never fully bake any plan because in today's landscape, you have to leave room to be agile. And if you don't, you lose to other brands who can. And that's what really wins, I think, with that Gen Z cohort that's so finicky, is being able to move fast and react to things and jump into trending conversations. Not all of them, but the ones that feel like they belong to your brand. And that leaving that space and listening is critical to being able to, I think, have continued success in at least in the very specific segment that we sit in.
Is there any brand within the same industry that you feel like if you were not in the brand that you are right now, you would like to be because they are doing a great job, the way they communicate, innovation? I'm asking this because sometimes we are in a space that we are the only ones like innovating or doing things a little bit different. And I know in the beauty industry, there is a lot happening, especially recently. So I'm wondering if there is any brand that you kind of admire from your place, or you feel, they are doing things really great?
I think in terms of brands that I admire, it's the ones that are taking the risks. So if you look at like Poppy has done a great job, Liquid Death has done a great job. New beverage brands, but like they're really stepping up to the plate and they're delivering interesting sort of shareable content that is resonating. And so their growth is a testament to the risks they take, especially Liquid Death.
Yeah, it's super clever.
So not to say that I would want to do that. Like I feel like I have this unique opportunity to do adventurous and interesting marketing, but that's right for MCO Beauty, right? So like what would work for Liquid Death would not work for us, but I feel very much empowered by the leadership team at VidaCorp to drive the car in the direction that we need to go to have that sort of same response. And so I'd rather be in my car driving to follow another car somewhere else. And that's the exciting part of this role is that there is so much road ahead of us.
I couldn't agree more. So let's move forward with a quick fire round. This is like, I will ask questions and you will say whatever comes to your mind. Are you ready? Awesome. So, commercial spot or social media activation?
Social media activation.
So, who creates the company? The audience or the team members?
The audience.
Winning an award or achieving business results?
Achieving business results.
Culture first or product first?
Culture.
Fast launch or perfect timing?
Fast.
Stories told by creators or stories told by brands?
Creators.
And what's your favorite MCO Beauty product?
Oh, I love our lip light. So there's actually a light inside of it. If you're somewhere dark, you have to touch up. It's the perfect.
Love it. I didn't see it. Yeah. Sounds great. So to close this episode, I will ask you 2 questions. What does it mean to you to be a woman who brands? And what advice would you give to a woman in the creative industry, especially one in a leadership position?
To be a woman that brands is a privilege. I feel like I get to play every day because I love what I do, and being able to have a platform to take my ideas and my team's ideas and bring them to life and actually make a dent in the social conversation. Like it's just surreal, right? So it's an honor, it's a privilege, and it's something that I'm very grateful for. As far as advice, I think it's just conviction, right? Like you have to decide what you want, what you're passionate about, and you need to pursue that and not let anything tell you otherwise. I've had more people say no to me than say yes to me in my career. I've had more people tell me I can't do things than people tell me that I can. And so the only consistent is my belief in myself. And so if you can believe in what it is that you want to do, whether on the smaller scale, it's like, I want to do this campaign and I think it's right, and you need to kind of really step up, own that, and take it over the line. Or if it's more personal, like I want to become a CMO, maybe you're a director, I want to become a CMO. There's a lot of conversation around this now where I think, there's a fair amount of people who are in that sort of marketing trajectory, and like they see that as the, the
goal, yeah.
They want. And I was in that position too. And I certainly had tons of people say to me, oh, well, you're creative and you're not data driven enough, or you're good at this, but you couldn't do the whole funnel. I've had so many of those comments, right? And then it's just blinders on. What do you want? I don't care what he's saying or she's saying or they're saying. What do you want? What do you believe you can do? What's your superpower and what are you passionate about? And just tune out, right? Because I heard that and I proved that wrong, right? And I'm not doing it for them. I'm doing it for me. And I believe that just kind of really staying true to yourself and focusing on what that path looks like and not letting other people discourage you is really important.
Love it. Well, thank you so much, Meredith, for this amazing conversation. It's really inspiring to listening to you. I feel maybe you know it already, but I really believe you're pretty smart, not only because of what you said, but the way you express it. I really believe it's pretty clear, and I appreciate it for this episode and in general in the industry. So it was such a pleasure for me to speak with you today.
I appreciate it. Thank you so much.
Of course. So, and to all women who brand, listening or reading, remember, your voice matters and your creativity has the power to inspire and lead. Until next time, ciao.